All right. So we are back on the Bum Radio Show. Thanks for joining us in the 10 o'clock hour. We've had a great show. We talked about many things. We talked about the Preckwinkle ad and the family begging, and played the clip of them begging Toni Preckwinkle to take down the ad that she displays the fatal fire that killed several siblings of one of the Funches family. We also talked about Trump and overturning what Betsy DeVos is saying as far as special education funding. The Special Olympics funding, because he wants to participate in it because we know he's special. And then we also talked about is Cardi B canceled?
Nope.
Because of the now latest viral video of her talking about what she's done in her past of drugging men. And we talked about how she's been open with who she is, even though a lot of the things are overboard. But Jalen says, if we gonna cancel R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, we canceling Cardi B. So Jalen trying to be up for the men with my intern in the building. And then, of course, we talked about Jussie Smollett. But who is better to just talk about this a little bit, because we got more. I don't want to talk about Jussie Smollett because we got more issues to talk about in the city of Chicago. But my special guest here today is the superintendent of police. We have many police officers, I think almost 13,500, and he oversees the police department and has been for several years. And he's been a friend of me for a long time, since he's been a superintendent. And I just call him and say, "Soup, I need you on my show." And he say, "No problem," and he's joined us on the Bum Radio Show. Thanks so much for coming in, the superintendent, Eddie Johnson. What's up, dude?
Hey, man, just living the dream. But thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Hey, man, thanks for coming on, man. We got some questions. We got viewers all over the world watching, and they commenting every second. Firstly, we gonna get this out the way. This Jussie Smollett situation. We see that you weren't notified by the state's attorney's office, and now we see a lot of backlash with Kim Foxx. Like, how do you feel about, number one, the Jussie Smollett situation, and number two, do you feel like Kim Foxx should get the backlash that she has been getting thus far? And pull the mic a little bit closer to you.
Okay, so this is what I'll say. Hopefully, this is the last time I'll have to address the Jussie Smollett situation. So, look, I've been a cop 30 years now. And we don't always get the outcomes we want in a court proceeding, so I'm okay with that. I think that, as when you have prosecutorial discretion, then, you use that. My job as a police officer is to gather the facts, gather the evidence, present it to the state's attorney, and then it's their job to proceed with the prosecution of the case. Am I always happy with the outcomes of cases? No. But I think we need to, as a city, recognize this. At the end of the day, it's a class 4 felony, disorderly conduct. We have much more pressing issues in this city to deal with. And I, for one, recognize at some point we got to turn the page from this.
Exactly.
We got to turn the page. Yeah. The summer is right around the corner, so myself and the rest of the police department, we need to get prepared for that and focus on keeping this city safe. So, what happened. We presented the facts. I stand by the investigation that the detectives did. Am I totally happy with the outcome? No, because I think that the city is still owed an apology. There was no exoneration. There was no vindication. There was nothing that said it didn't occur. If there are facts out there that would negate the facts that we presented, then present them. But other than that, I'm about done with.
But they protesting Kim Foxx. FOP has come out big time. You got lawyers associations. I mean, now it's like we're gonna now take down the first black woman state's attorney. I don't think they would be doing that to Anita Alvarez. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Kim Foxx and I have a great relationship. We talk about many cases, as the police superintendent and any state's attorney should do.
Right.
I'm not a politician, so I'm not going to get into that particular arena. But what I can say is that I think at the end of the day, the police department and the state's attorney's office have the same mission, and that's to keep this city safe and bring people that commit crimes to justice.
Now, Jim, you didn't go on Good Morning America, did you? Did you go on Good Morning America?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, Good Morning America.
Why?
We got a lot of cases and a lot of things that we should be putting in the spotlight, especially with Good Morning America. Why Jussie Smollett? I'm so tired of hearing this man's name.
Yeah, well, you have to understand too, Jamal, that although it's a Class 4 felony and a disorderly conduct, it's because of his celebrity. That's why all this media frenzy is out there. And people want answers, and I respect that. I really do. But at the end of the day, again, there was going to be no prison time associated with this. It's a Class 4, and that's the lowest level of felony you can get. And the programs, all of our diversion programs or deferred prosecution, things of that nature, those are designed for people that commit crimes to be able to atone for that and keep their records, pretty clean, as well as move these cases through the judicial system. They're not designed for innocent people.
$130,000, Rahm is saying. Is Rahm being a bully right now? He's now sending a letter with the memo of make sure you include an apology. I mean, is he being a bully? Then we got other things to focus on.
Of course,
$130,000. What other case have we spent that on? And I mean, have we spent that amount of money on cases that really need it?
Yeah, we have. You know what? Let me put this out there. We didn't give this case any more resources than we normally would for a case of that nature, a hate crime. Because remember, when this all started out, it was reported as a hate crime. Okay. And so we diligently looked for the perpetrators of that crime. I think the mayor is just standing up for the city, and that's about all.
You don't think he's being a bully?
Well, I think he's standing up for the city. But to that end, again, my focus as the superintendent of police is to get ready for the summer months. And
well, if you were the mayor, would you keep pressing this, or would you focus on some other things that's more important?
Well, you know what? I'm not the mayor. I'm not a politician. I'm a police superintendent.
Hypothetically.
So I focus. I don't want to think about a hypothetical, man.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Considering that we really do have other things that's more important to focus on. So, like, in the case of Kiara Coles and a lot of the missing girls that's no one has ever heard of, and it seems like Kiara Coles was a headline from one week and we don't know any updates, and here it is now. She's supposed to be like 9 months pregnant. We still don't know what's going on. All of the attention, and I do understand, okay, he is a celebrity, but all of the push and all of the hard detective work that was going on, why isn't that same energy given to black women like Kiara Cole that
it is missing? It is. You just don't hear about it in this fashion. The difference in this particular case was that because you have a celebrity, the media gravitated towards that. The public gravitated towards that. That doesn't mean the police department doesn't give the same resources to those other cases, because we do. It's just that this was out there for the public to view. But we give the same amount of resources or more to those cases. And just like you mentioned the Kiara Cole case, believe me, we are still investigating that case. And, I don't want to put too much out there, but we're investigating it. Trust me when I tell you that.
So
that incident about all these black women that was put out there some time ago, there was nothing to support that. Those females that they had referenced, we found all those females, and they were returned to their families.
Now, as far as detectives, because we talk, it all boiled down to detectives, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we have how many detectives we got? 1,100?
Something like that. Roughly.
So, the next administration, are you asking for more detectives? Or because Rahm wanted to put 1,000 more patrol officers out on the streets. Well,
and he did.
And I'm sure many of us disagree with, doing that instead of putting 1,000 more detectives in, getting those numbers back when we were in 95, back to that clearance rate of 60%. Do we need more detectives?
So you have to recognize how we promote up in the police department. You can't promote up to 1,000 more detectives unless you have those 1,000 more patrolmen, because that's where the detectives come from. They don't come on the police department automatically being detectives.
But we got 12.5 though. So if there's not 1,000 detectives, patrolmen, we can promote up.
Well, but then you have to backfill those patrolman spots. Let me tell you this. So in 2016, remember how horrible of a year we had in 2016 in terms of the violence, mm-hmm. right? So we started the Strategic Decision Support Centers in 2017, right?
Yeah.
So right now, today, I can tell you that we have cut violent crime in the city now, the shootings, by 50% since then, 50 in half. Okay. And part of that reason is because we have more officers out there. We invested in technology, but also, and maybe the most key piece, is that we've been able to reestablish some of those relationships in the community that have been fractured. So all of those things matter when it comes to the reduction of crime. And I just have to put this out there too. Crime is just not about the police. We have to address root causes of crime. So one thing that I think people miss, when I became superintendent, I think we had about 12,000 young men or young citizens in this city that had summertime jobs. Now it's up to 33,000. Mentorship programs like the BAM program. We're up to 7,000 young men in inner city schools now that are affiliated with those programs. All those things matter. We got to do a
lot more, though.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, some criticism on those programs, but I'm not going to talk about it. But what I will say is that you're exactly right. The root causes of crime. So you agree with me that police officers cannot solve violence in the city of Chicago.
Listen, we'll never arrest our way out of the violence in this city. Policing is one piece of it, but there's a lot more pieces out there. Listen, if crime were so simple, we'd addressed and fixed that a long time ago. It's a complex issue, but I know this. You can add more policemen. You can add 10,000 more police. We can't be everywhere, so you have to address the other root causes of crime.
More detectives, yes or no?
Yeah, I would like to see more detectives on the police department.
So more detectives on the police department. Now, we have a database, and then if you got a question, we'll come to you next, Mo. We got a database of, 1,400. They say this is a database. I remember you talking about this some time back, of those offenders who will possibly be shot or shoot.
Correct.
Okay. Now, why don't we have a program to target that database?
We do. So what we do, I don't know if you've heard of this, our custom notification program. And what that is, in case people don't know, that's when the police department, when we identify people that might be victims or perpetrators of gun violence, we go to their homes, knock on their doors, and we take external partners with us, healthcare partners, people that could possibly offer them job, educational opportunities, all of that. We take all of that with us, and we offer them these services so they can get out of that lifestyle. Because let me say this.
When did that start?
That started a few years ago.
Okay.
Yep. And it's been when we first started it was a little, what's the word? Not comical, but it was just funny because when we initially started this program, when we would knock on their doors, of course, they thought we were coming over there to arrest them.
Right.
And so they were very reluctant. But as time went on, we might have gotten maybe 1 out of 5 to participate. Okay. We're up to like 4 out of 5 of these individuals now participating in this program.
Right.
So that's good stuff because you have to give them an avenue, a way out of that lifestyle if they want it. And that's what we have to do better, not just as a city, but as a society. The vast majority of these guys involved in that lifestyle, they want to get out, but many times they don't know how. So we have to do a better job as a city of giving them an avenue to get out of that lifestyle.
We're live right here on the Bum Radio Show. If you got a question, we may take a caller in at 312-374-8130. We got another that 15 minutes with the soup. Kira Mo.
Yeah, so I did have another question. So I know you say you can't necessarily promote people without having other officers that's able to necessarily fill their spots. So what do you believe that the police is doing currently, or the department is doing currently, to attract black and brown or just people in general to actually want to be involved?
So, I talk to police chiefs all over the country.
Y'all can't attract me. I'm just trying to tell you.
And I'll tell you this. A lot of jurisdictions are having a real problem with recruiting people. We're not having a problem in Chicago in terms of recruitment. But we are, or I should say this, let me digress. We were having a problem with recruiting minorities. Mm-hmm. So we started a really robust program when I became superintendent. I mean, down to the point where I would get on a phone bank myself and call potential African-American candidates to come on this job. Because here's the situation. I can't put people that look like us in our neighborhoods if I don't have them on the police force. Now, having said that, I will tell you this. I hear people always saying, let's do a change. Let's make a change. Well, you can't just talk about the change unless you're willing to be part of that change. And I'm really proud to say our numbers in terms of African-American recruits has went up significantly in these 3 years. So we're making some progress. Are we there yet? No.
So real quick question. I know we don't got you too long. Now, let's address this and put it out there. Many people are commenting about this. You talked about before, you said that about the code of silence in a police department. All right, you said that you have never seen any wrongdoings by police officers. Do you stand by that statement, or can you explain that more?
Okay, let me explain it. I never said I didn't see any wrongdoing. I was asked, had I seen a code of silence?
Okay.
I have not personally seen that. I mean, let's define what a code of silence is.
Please.
So you're not going to see a group of cops say, come on, sit around. This is what we're going to do. It doesn't work like that. So I'm not going to indict the entire department and say the entire department operates in that fashion. What I will say to you is, do I believe you have officers out here that will turn the other cheek if they see some misconduct? Yeah, I do. Do I believe that some officers might do it because they're just afraid to say something? Yeah. Do I think some might do it because they're trying to protect somebody? Yes, I do. I do think that people will cover up things that they see when they see misconduct occurring. So what I will also say to you is this. I don't think that the Chicago Police Department is any different than any other organization. So there's reasons why people do that type of thing, but I will tell you this. Since I become superintendent, and even before, when things of that nature has come to my attention, I deal with it. When I first became superintendent, I was point blank asked the question, did I believe there was racism in the Chicago Police Department? Okay.
What's the answer?
That's a legitimate question. So my answer is this. There's racism in America. There's racism in Chicago, so it only follows that there's racism within the Chicago Police Department. There is. So how do you combat that? By making them, A, more professional so they can leave that racist attitude at home when they leave, and B, for me, when I can discover it, to handle it accordingly. And I can tell you as superintendent, I handle it accordingly if it's brought to my attention.
Now, you said two words that just triggered something in my head. You said the words cover up. Okay. Now, the words cover up, LaQuan McDonald, you were not the superintendent at the time. Now, how do you feel here? We got Jason Van Dyke, who now is going to be getting out of jail in what, a couple years. Was this a just sentence? Do you think that Jason Van Dyke should have got a lengthier period of time in jail? And should the mayor be investigated for his role?
So what I say to you is this. I'm still prohibited by the gag order in those court proceedings. But I will say this. I think that entire incident was a teachable moment for this city, not just the police department, for this city. And we have to do everything we can to make sure we have as professional a police department as we can. And you get that by investing in the training and the resources that we give them. So, when all that's said and done, then maybe I can comment further on it. But right now, I just think it's a teachable moment that we shouldn't let things like that occur and not learn something from them.
All right, so we're going to go to some calls. We got about 10 minutes, so I'm going to take please keep your questions short and straight to the point. Please do not be disrespectful.
Before we go to break, because I have somebody that's actually on my live right now, and they're interested in policing. And I've grown to understand that in order to change a system, that sometimes you do have to become a part of it.
You do.
So I get it. Not I.
Sometimes
However, exactly. Not I. But his question is, if a certain person became a police officer because they actually wanted to police their community, and they wanted to work within their community, how do they go about getting into that particular police department?
Man, all they have to do, you take that test, you go through the process, you call me up and say, Superintendent, I want to go to Inglewood. I will put you in Inglewood.
That's what hashtag send me to Inglewood.
That's right.
That's
I will
exactly
put you in Inglewood. Because, look, when I go through our communities and they say to me, Superintendent, I want to see more police officers that look with me, I agree with them. The police department should reflect the diversity of this city. And right now, we're not doing that. We're getting better now, but we're not quite there. But again, I can't put black officers in black communities if I don't have them to begin with.
We got to work on that.
So we're gonna go. We do got to work on that. We're gonna go to give me Chris. I got on the phone line too. I got Chris on the line. What's up? What's your question?
Hey, good evening, Jamal.
Good evening,
Superintendent, and the young lady.
What's up, Chris?
I wanted to ask the superintendent. I know he stated that Mr. Smollett and the mayor also stated that he owed the people, city of Chicago, apology. I was wondering, did he hear about the case of the 17 or so officers with their actions at a wrong raid and turning over a cake and placing guns to small minor children under the age of 5 or 6. And also, if he could interject, how come the north side in certain white areas, Mount Greenwood, Beverly, Evergreen, Wrigley, they're mostly all white officers, and in the black areas, there's a saturation of white officers.
Okay, so now I'm getting older now, Chris, so you can't throw all that at me at one time, and I'll forget some of that stuff. But in terms of the search warrant that you're referencing, yeah, I do apologize for things like that. You know, we try to vet those things out as thoroughly as we can before we execute them, but sometimes we get it wrong. You know, and when we do, let me finish.
I'll do respect, Soup.
Yep.
I never see it happen in the wider areas. I never see that, but excuse me for interrupting.
Okay, you don't see that because it's not reported. That's why you don't see it. But to your point, yeah, you know, I apologize to that because listen, that could be my house or you know, my relative's home. So we try to vet those things as much as we can. But I absolutely apologize when we incorrectly hit someone's home on a search warrant. You know, we're trying to do the right thing, but sometimes we do make mistakes, and we're human. But you know, as a police department, and as a superintendent, we have to get better at ensuring that type of thing doesn't happen. But to your point about
per the attorney, that person had not stayed at that residence for 5 years, and weapons were drawn on children that were under 7 years of age.
And so, Chris, we gotta run to a different call. Thanks so much for your question.
Thanks for tuning in.
Let me get Taylor, please. Let's keep it quick. Taylor, what's up?
Yes, the superintendent is the same as the chief of police in Chicago?
That's the same thing.
Same thing.
But, sir, it's an honor for me to have this opportunity to speak with you. I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I live here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm connected to Chief Anderson and Deputy Chief Anthony Carter, the African-American officer. And when I discovered this out, it was at Tennessee State University where they were training students who wanted to be considered police officers. But I referred to Chief Anderson and Deputy Chief Carter here because in Nashville, I understand how ungrieved grief, protest psychosis, is affecting the community. And in Tuscaloosa, where I'm from, in the 60s, I'm 64 years old.
Okay.
We were worshiping in white churches in the 50s and 60s. So I don't have the emotion. And in Chicago, believe it or not, I got freed from something in Tuscaloosa by talking to Ada Rayner Funeral Home and asked them if Chicago was in the midst of an Emmett Till time warp. And they confirmed that for me. And I had a young lady who, March 1st, 2017, I spoke to the radio and said, I need to find a mother who attended Emmett Till's funeral, and I did, and she just so happened to be pregnant with her son, which freed me, and that I got more than what I was really looking for. And I'm hoping to have the opportunity to speak with you at some other times. I believe I've done research that can help.
So you want to connect with the superintendent, Taylor, right?
Yeah, at some other time.
All right. So how can they connect and reach the police
department?
Well,
let me give you my email.
We can't take emails.
We'll
sorry.
have our producer take it down for you, and we'll trade it with the superintendent.
Just stay on the line, Taylor. Give me Sheena.
Sheena, you there?
Sheena. All right. Give me Ziff.
Good morning.
What's up, Ziff?
Superintendent and Jamal, great show. Superintendent, this is my first time speaking to you, and I've been watching you, and I've watched every superintendent since Jane Byrne, and I have to give you some credit. None of them have ever came on radio at 10 o'clock at night. But what I think is dangerous, if the police department protests the state's attorney image of the police and the state's attorney are mad at each other, that's a dangerous confrontation.
You are quite right.
Law.
You are quite right. So, you know, because after all, we are partners in the crime fight, and our missions are the same. So, but I will say this to you. Oh, he's gone.
Yep.
Well, I'll still continue with that answer. But, you know, I agree. That's not something that I think we should be doing. However, you know, you have to understand that the Fraternal Order of Police, they're a different entity than me, so I cannot tell them what they cannot do.
Will you protest on our side and be with us to protest to protect Kim?
I can't get involved in political actions. I'm the police superintendent. So, and as much as I'd like to just be Eddie Johnson, it's unfortunately it doesn't.
You just take off your uniform.
That don't work either.
Nah, it ain't working.
All right. Last caller. We got to keep it real quick because we got only a few more minutes with the soup. Go ahead, Willie.
So, Superintendent Johnson, I understand that you are not arbitrating, you're not negotiating for the police, but it's the question for the contract. We know the police negotiate a lot of stuff that's not normally inside of a labor contract. Do you think that our police officers should have some of the things in the contract, like being able to change their stories when an incident occurs? And should we ever have a situation in this day and age, the technology that we have, where misconduct records are destroyed? Should we ever have anything like that to really bridge and bring the community and the police department together?
Thank you, Willie.
Okay, Willie, those are valid questions. So what I'll say to you is this: because we are in the throes of a labor contract negotiation right now, I have to be careful of being charged with unfair labor practices. So I can't really comment in detail about that. But what I will say to you, I think that right now in the world we live in, and the fact that we're trying to bring the police department and the communities together so we can make a better Chicago, I think all sides have to be reasonable and willing to compromise with things. So I think that hopefully at the end of the day, everybody will see that piece of the pie. And, we have to come to a mutual understanding about what we want. We want our police officers to be held accountable. We want discipline to be not take 3 and 4 years. We want it to be concise. And, when officers have conducted themselves in misconduct, then they should be held accountable up to the point where they lose their jobs. When they make mistakes, then it should not be a death penalty, but they still should be held accountable. And then we get them the training and the coaching they need and put them back out there. But the point is, we just have to make sure we invest in the police department to ensure it's as professional as it can be.
Thank you to the callers. We got about 2-3 minutes left with the soup, so we want to get to wrapping this up. So, Soup, tell me, I know you can't talk politically about the mayoral race, but do you look forward to staying a superintendent for a while?
Yeah, you know what? Listen, I didn't go seek this job out. So if I'm not the superintendent, I'll be okay. Eddie Johnson will be okay.
Right.
But
32. How many years?
It'll be 31.
31 years
in another month. But
congratulations.
Thank you. What I will say is this: I have seen the progress we've made in the police department in these last 3 years, and what I would like to see is get that foundation set so we don't backslide and go back to the way things were.
Right.
The reason it's so difficult to change police cultures or the mentality is because the people at the top change so often. Once that change occurs, then you're pretty much starting back from the beginning. And I think that I've seen in these 3 years a lot of progress, like I said, right now, if I were to tell you our robberies, burglaries, and thefts were at 20-year lows right now.
Right.
We cut gun violence in this city by 50% since 2017. Those are huge numbers, and that was in a short period of time. And so it's not about Eddie Johnson. It's about the Chicago Police Department and about making this city safer. So I think, as much as I would like to go off and do other things, I think that another year or two will set that foundation, especially in terms of us going into the consent decree.
So you want another year or two from the mayor, one of the mayoral candidates. Give him another year or two. Right?
I think that in order for us, we got the consent decree
exactly.
that we're in now, and I think that I believe in that consent decree because I believe it's going to make CPD better, and if we can make the department better, we make this city better.
Right.
So I just want to make sure certain things are finished before I leave here.
And what's the funnest thing about being a superintendent?
Talking to you all. You know what? Honestly speaking, I would tell you all this. Of course, I didn't seek this job, but one of the unintended benefits for me is when I go out into the communities and be able to talk to the young folks that want to see change, and a lot of the things that I've implemented, I get from the people out on the streets because I listen to them. So for me, that's one of the best things. And then the second most best thing for me, I think, that I enjoy is when I can do things to make it easier for the rank and file police officers to do their job, because the majority of them want to do the right thing, and they're out there trying to make this city better. So my relationship with the community and the rank and file officers give me a lot of sense of encouragement.
Jalen, I got my intern here going to ask you this last question. He got a question. Go. Can I get a microphone on for Jalen? 16 years old, intern in here on the Bomb Radio Show. What's up, Jay? What's your question to the superintendent?
So my question to you is, for young people in the city, how do you think we should go in trusting police officers to do the right thing in each situation? Because, it's not enough to, be right sometimes, but all the time we should expect for police to do the right thing.
That's true. Police officers should be held to a higher standard. You are absolutely correct. So I think what we have to do is get to a point where young folks interact with police officers in positive situations more, so you can get to know them. Because if you only see police when things are going bad, then of course you're going to have bad feelings about it. And like I said, I think some of it is because we put police officers in situations where they don't understand the cultures and diversity of certain neighborhoods, and we just have to get better at that. But for young folks, I would say, hey, we have a lot of programs out here now, so we can integrate police officers with young people. And I would suggest, you try to find those programs. We'll bring them to you so that you can get to know us as just people, because people see these uniforms so often and they forget there's a person inside of this uniform. But that's a valid question. You say you're 16?
Yes, sir.
What time is curfew?
16.
Nah, but that's a good question, man. So that's what I would suggest we do.
Parents, let them miss curfew for me. Okay. I know we gotta wrap it up with you, Soup. First of all, I just want to thank you. I think one of the callers said it best. You are probably the first superintendent of police to come on late night radio, and we really appreciate you. Now we got to get through this election season, and we got so many things going on the street. What's your final thought? What's one thing that you want people to understand? You got a lot of people that, of course, disagree with you. A lot of people think that you're doing a bidding for the mayor, and you don't really care about the community, even though you black. What's one thing that you leave them with?
This is what I would leave them with. I've been in this city my entire life. I raised my kids here. I love this city. I love this police department, and I know we're a better Chicago right now than we were a few years ago. And you might not always agree with the decisions that I make.
Is that a hit on Gary McCarthy?
No, it's not. You might not always agree with my decisions, but know this. I make decisions from my heart, and I try to do the right thing by everyone. So that's what I want people to know.
All right, Superintendent Eddie Johnson, he is live here. He ain't on the phone. He came in late at night to talk to the Bum Radio Show, and all of you guys watching and listening at home, and all of the callers. We thank you for tuning in, and we're going to keep this conversation going. But we got to let Superintendent get some sleep, because he's handling a major police department here. And, we wish you the best and for the future. And, of course, you got the new mayor coming in, and, we'll see what happens. Tony says she's going to fire you now.
Yeah, I know. We'll see what happens. We'll see.
We're going to see what happens. Thanks so much to the superintendent of police, Eddie Johnson, for coming in. We really appreciate you. So